All right, we are live.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Sweat the Bet podcast and live stream brought to you by OddsJam. OddsJam.com. OddsJam is a sports bettor's best friend. As always, they help give you a edge on the sports books because, look, the reality is the sports books have an edge on you. The odds are stacked against you. So you got to figure out how to get an edge back on them. So rather than spending tons of time and research in your busy day, line shopping, manually comparing different things, just go to oddsjam.com. They have easy line shopping. They have positive EV, positive expected value alerts. They have arbitrage opportunities. They have positive EV live betting for those of you who love live betting. Okay, we got easy bet trackers where it's very simple. You put in the bets, it'll automatically grade. It'll keep track of things for you. It is amazing, guys. So if you're not using this, go check it out. Go to oddsjam.com. Why are you waiting, guys? So OddsJam is the sponsor of this, and I am your host, Andrew Kim, aka the Parlay Doc on Twitter. And here's my co-host, Matt Modi. What is up, Matt? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm very, very excited for the series to start and for the game tonight. So I'm doing great. How about you?
Good, man. Good. It's been a rough week of work, but you know what? I can use some R&R tonight, just zoning out, watching a game one, and I'm hoping it's a very competitive series. I hope it's not a bunch of blowouts like it's been in some of the conference finals. So I hope it's really tight. I hope it's a battle like from start to finish. That's all I'm asking for. I just want to be entertained, have a long 6-7 game series. Let's stretch this out, knowing that we're heading into the off season. So
Yeah. None of that Heat Celtics series where they were all just blowouts.
no, yeah, I don't want none of that. I want tight games. I don't want these 25 blowouts and they're just alternating blowouts over and over. I don't want to see that.
Yeah, that's no fun. That's no fun.
So today, guys, we are going to dive into and talk about just the series as a whole. Then we're going to kind of go into some keys to victory, talking about game one, looking at both teams. What do we think needs to be done? What are the X factors? All those different things. So we're going to do a deep dive and just focus literally on this NBA final series. And then we'll spend, since we're not talking about too much else, we'll spend a little bit more time today going over some of our favorite bets for tonight, for the series. I got some prop bets for hockey because it was an insane game one for the Avs and Oilers. So why don't we take advantage and just run it back? So and why don't we look at some, goal scorers for that game? So that's what we got in store for you. So let's kick it off with our traditional sweat or no sweat. So I'll kick it off, Matt. So in retrospect, I know we're going to dive into the finals today, so I wanted to bring up a different topic. I'm just curious your thoughts. Do you think that the version of the Miami Heat that just got eliminated, very, very hard fought series, was this the peak version of this core, this iteration of the Miami Heat? Is this their peak and they're only going to go down from here? Or if they can maintain the core, move a couple ancillary pieces, are we going to see them take another step? Or is this it? This was the pinnacle and it was a nice, cute run. But they're only gonna go downhill from here. What are your thoughts? Was this peak Miami Heat?
That's a good question. I'm gonna say no sweat. I think you're right. I don't. The Heat certainly aren't going anywhere. But in terms of becoming the one seed, winning the finals, I think this year they had their chance 2 years ago in the bubble. Kyle Lowry, was just a shell of himself all year. Like he missed a ton of time with personal matter, which obviously that you don't fault him at all. But he also missed 2 weeks with a hamstring injury. He was just a shell of himself in the playoffs when he returned. PJ Tucker is 37. Kyle Lowry, I think, is 37. Jimmy Butler, he's probably not going anywhere. He's incredible. He's only 31, 32. And he just takes it easy in the regular season. So he probably is not going anywhere, but they're going to have to pay Hero. They already paid Duncan Robinson, who ended up I don't know what happened to him. They just stopped playing him. Yeah. My thoughts on Bam. I think Bam's great. I think Bam's overrated. And I don't think he's quite in the elite tier. So I do think that the Heat probably have a splash in them. I think they're going to try and go for Donovan Mitchell, or they're going to go for someone. If that happens, then obviously everything I said is just totally moot.
Oh yeah, no. That's I'm talking about without minus. So I should have minus adding another huge 1A superstar. This core, if they just added role players and tweaked a bit, is this iteration kind of its peak? So
I think so. The Bucks aren't going anywhere. The Celtics aren't going anywhere. I mean, like the Cavs I think have an insanely bright future. I think the Raptors probably have a bright future. The Sixers will have a bright future once they fire Doc Rivers, which again, I'm going to have to wait another year for that. So like, I think the East it's not as top heavy as it was with like when LeBron just took over the East for 8 years,
Sure.
but there's a lot of really good teams in the East now that there weren't before. So, so to answer your question, yes, I do think this was the best chance the Heat had of this iteration of the team. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think if, in my opinion, if I were the GM, and I haven't even researched their cap space and all that stuff, but I feel like it's you might as well just swing. You got to go for it, or I don't know. You got to kind of retool and think about the future. So I agree. I would be interested to see if they are going to try to make a huge splash move, like you were saying. Like
I think they will.
One of these, one of these big free agents. So
that's such a Heat thing to do. That's such a Heat, like
Pat Riley move.
Exactly. So my sweat or no sweat is finals specific.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I really believe it myself, but I just want to hear your thoughts.
Okay.
One of Tatum or Curry will not win the MVP. It'll be someone else other than those two that'll win the MVP of the NBA Finals.
Yeah, no, I would say no sweat. I think so.
Interesting. Okay, I thought you were going to disagree with me there.
No. I think my thing is this. We know Steph Curry is legit star. Some will argue, and I know there's going to be hating comments saying he's not, and he's empty stat stuffer. But look, he's good. He's a freaking star, guys. Okay, Steph Curry is a legitimate star. Don't even bother arguing with me on that. So
yeah,
we know he's capable. Obviously, we know Jason Tatum has that ceiling. He's capable. But what we've also seen this postseason is we haven't seen a dominant Steph, right? We haven't seen Steph doing 35 points a game, 7, 8 threes. And I mean, that's not the version that's happening. Is he saving it for the finals? We'll see. Celtics have a juggernaut defense. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. I think part of some of my props tonight, are based off the fact I'm expecting he's going to have some other guy step up tonight. And they're just,
okay.
They'll live with any other X factor. I think they're going to live with Clay, go ahead and try to beat us. Poole, go ahead and try to shoot over us. I don't care. So I think because of how limited he might be, that's going to reduce his chances of winning that. So I think it's going to, if it's on the Golden State Warrior side, I can see, I don't know if they have a big series. I hate to say he's so inconsistent. If just Clay can just play more consistently, if Wiggins can basically do all the dirty work, could it be another one of those Iguodala situations where they give it to, it's like another Iggy situation. They give it to the dirty work guy, right? And Wiggins has been solid in a lot of these other columns.
He really has. Yeah.
So Wiggins could be a sleeper, in my opinion. If he can, I just wonder, can he step up in the bright lights, right? And do this. So let's see. I mean, so on the other side, I could see, and this is a total long shot, but I mean, it's like, if Tatum is just off, he goes more into that facilitator mode. Can Jaylen Brown has been consistent, minus one really off outside shooting night the last series. I mean, man's just mid-20s every game, like 20-something points. He's getting some boards. It was a little off sometimes, but I mean, if he can do that the entire series, if it's dragged out and he does that 5-6 out of the 7 games, he could sneak one. Will Marcus Smart get credited for shutting down?
Well, defensively, fine.
I said defensively.
Okay.
Not.
I should have let you finish,
dude. When he shoots threes, I cringe. Okay, so I'm saying defensively, or even, and this is building into mine. Is Al Horford a sleeper? Pick?
Yeah.
Sleeper pick. Okay, so that's going to be one of my suggestions later. Super long shot, 1/10 of a unit. Al Horford plus 10,000, guys. Plus 10,000.
I mean, you put $1, you make $1,000. That's not terrible.
It's so I'm just saying, okay. So so that's the reason why I can see some of these role players, like if the defenses are that good, and they are that good on both sides of the ball, and they shut down their 1As, someone's going to have to step up. And if they're shut down enough times, I could see one of these role players sneaking one possibly.
Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like this is I don't know, the past couple years, I guess the Suns not so much, but there's always like 2 people that realistically you think could get it on each team. Like last year was Booker and Paul. Middleton. I mean, Middleton really no way. It was either Giannis or bust for the Bucks. But I mean, I've seen a lot of this on social media where it's instead of betting who you think is going to win the series, just bet the MVP because it's like it's almost always obvious if this team wins, if that player is going to win the MVP. You know what I mean?
I think this year's an exception to that. I
Yeah.
think.
See, I don't know if I necessarily agree because like Tatum and Steph are the true stars for each of their teams. Like
Oh
it's
yeah,
not even like an Embiid
yeah,
Harden situation or like a
yeah.
Paul Booker. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm I'm sweating my own sweat or no sweat because
Yeah, no, I hear you.
I think it'll be probably one of those two because like there's no even question of is there a second star? Like it's those two and then
Oh
it's
yeah,
everybody's else a step below. You know what I mean?
yeah. No, I can see it from both sides. It's like they're the obvious 1As, right? So and if you can shop around and if you can find some value on them, I wouldn't blame anyone because they are the studs, right? So
Yeah,
my
yeah.
my angle is more I'm banking, and this is a lot of banking, right? It's you're banking that the defenses are so legitimate and they're so suffocating on both sides of the ball for the majority of every game that it almost forces someone. So it's almost like they have to fail to be the 1A to have my scenario work out, right? So
Yeah.
I'm banking on failure versus you're banking on like let's just have it play out how it should play out, right? So
Yeah. I mean, if you look at like I haven't done a deep dive, but like Steph has in the finals compared to every other series, he definitely has like struggled the most in the finals. Obviously, we don't know what Tatum's going to be like,
sure.
but Steph has. I'll say that he has struggled in the finals compared to what we're used to seeing from Steph,
Yep.
and that's why he's never
All
won
right.
one. So we will see.
Yeah. So yeah, and we'll get into that in some of our bets. Like I said, I think there's some angles there where if you want to sprinkle just for fun, I think there's some absurd odds out there. And again, these are super long shots for a reason, but I think for fun, couple bucks. I think some of the names we already tossed out there, the Wiggins, the Horfords, I don't think it's that absurd that it
The
should be that
Horford one I
high.
don't hate because he wasn't
Yeah.
as big in the Heat series, but that like he won. I mean, Tatum was incredible, but like Horford legitimately won like two of the games against the Bucks in that
Well,
series.
and the reason that I'm bringing it up specific, that one is not just like I feel like I'm totally burning it. It's just they're the size, right? I mean, the Golden State Warriors they don't have a Giannis, right? So
Yeah,
I think he legit has a chance to be a very big impact in this series on the boards, facilitating with assists. Can you, instead of getting 8, 9, 10 points a game, can you step it up again 14, 15 a game in addition to the other stat columns?
yeah,
You could
yeah, yeah,
make a
yeah.
legitimate case. You can make a case for him. So okay, guys. So moving on to the meat and potatoes of the show, the main portion. So let's talk about the series as a whole. Okay. So before we dive into the nuances of Game 1, so just tell me about what you kick it off. What are your thoughts just about this series? How you kind of envision it playing out? Is it going to be a long series, short series? Who's going to take this? What are your initial thoughts?
Yeah. So, I mean, initial thoughts. I wasn't really surprised that the Warriors were pretty heavy favorites. I think I saw them at like minus 160 when I was looking at it earlier today. I'm not sure if it's changed since then. I also just like to do a little bit of a recap on the two teams. No surprise that if you just look at net rating, that's Celtics number one, the Warriors number two in terms of net rating in the playoffs.
Hmm?
If you go back to the regular season, the Celtics were number two and the Warriors were fourth. But if you remember, the Warriors kind of had a weird regular season where like Steph, Clay, and Draymond almost never played together.
Yeah.
Like when Clay came back, Draymond was hurt. When Draymond came back, like Steph got hurt. And actually in that game against the Celtics, when Marcus Smart like ran up under him and Steph hurt his foot. So
Yeah.
the Warriors only ended the year only 16th on offense. But if you look at the playoffs, they're number one by far. I mean, they're the best offense in the playoffs by far. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I think to me, and this isn't super profound, but I think the series is going to come down to turnovers because the Warriors always turn it over a lot. So the question, and like I think they averaged 15 in the regular season. I mean, we've talked about this a ton, but the way they play basketball, the motion-based offense predicated
Yep.
more on passing than ISO is going to lead to more turnovers. So the question is, do they stick around their average of 15 or do they creep above 20? Because if they creep above 20, that's just free points for the Celtics in against the number one defense in the regular season, the number two defense in the regular season. Like those cheap points are going to become incredibly important if they end up happening. But then on the flip side, the regular season, the Celtics were like middle of the pack in turnovers, like roughly 13 a game, something like that, 13% of their possessions. So it's not terrible, but like against the Heat, they had just some confounding turnovers. Like they blew
Yeah.
game. They almost blew game 7 because of turnovers. They blew game
Yeah.
6 because of turnovers.
Game 6.
And,
Yep.
yeah, and the Heat forced a lot of turnovers in the regular season. as do the Warriors. The Warriors forced the 10th most turnovers per game in the regular season. So the Warriors are just as good as the Heat at getting turnovers. So it's the same logic. Like, if the Warriors even, like, I think if the turnover battle is even, then the Warriors are going to win the series. I think if the Warriors win the turnover battle, then I think it's series probably going to go 5. So the Celtics need to win the turnover battle, and they just can't like just wet their pants for like an entire quarter like they did
Yeah.
multiple times against the Heat. Like that fourth quarter was terrible. Game 6, I mean, Jimmy Butler was incredible in game 6, but the reason why the Heat won is because the Celtics turnovers. You know what I mean? And they almost gave it away again in game 7. So I think, again, this isn't the most profound thing in the world, but to me, I think it's all going to come down to turnovers.
Yeah, just to piggyback on you, since we're on this topic, we'll just bring it up now. Like, I was looking at some statistics and stuff and through NBA team stats, and so in the postseason, right? So like just like you were saying, I mean, the Celtics are legit, man. Their defense is crazy. So they've limited the playoffs specifically. They've limited playoff opponents to 86.8 points per 100 possessions in half court sets. So when you slow it down and you just kind of, and I get it, like there's a lot of, ball movement, off the ball movement for Golden State, but they do, yeah. I mean, if you're going to play those half court sets, Celtics are pretty damn good at limiting points this postseason, right? So interestingly, though, they're also not the best at capitalizing on the turnovers. They were just kind of middle of the pack in terms of points off turnovers. So it's not only about limiting the turnovers, creating turnovers, but can they actually finish and make it worth their while, right? Can they actually finish with these turnovers? So I think that's going to be another nuance too. Can they actually do a better job of actually converting that into points? So we'll see if that happens. But I guess my concern is when I look at this on both sides, it's like, God, is this going to be a grinding, grueling? I mean, both teams in the upper 80s or like low 90s type of games, and I don't, as some people love that, I actually don't mind the offensive fueled era of basketball, and I'm just like, this might be a grind of a series when I look at like the defensive ratings on both sides, the turnovers on both sides, the stagnation of the Celtics offense for long stretches. I just don't want it to be ugly basketball. I just don't want that.
Yeah, I think the Bucks Celtics and the Heat Celtics series is going to be uglier than this one will be. I think I don't think this will quite be the just absolute grind fest that those two series were. But yeah, I mean, you're right about the Celtics offense. One thing, and I don't know how much you can really put into this, but I saw the stat that the Celtics are the only team that has a winning record against the Warriors in the Steve Kerr era. Now, obviously, there's been like 10 different iterations of the Celtics, ranging from like Isaiah Thomas to Kyrie to like
Isaiah Thomas.
You know what I mean? Like there's been a bunch of different iterations of the Celtics in that span. But I don't know. Do you think there's anything to that, or do you think that's just noise?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's some trends I follow, like general global trends, like the whole coming off a game 7, traveling as the road team to then play a game 1 of a next importance. Like, yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, then I feel like there's arguments to that. But these other things, it's just like, these are different teams, different time periods where it's like, yeah, it's nice. I almost think we almost use it more as like psychological, like comfort, that like there's something to analyze, but it's just like a roulette wheel, right? It's like, it's a different spin every time, and they're kind of independent from each other. So we have to just kind of take it with a grain of salt. I don't know, that something like that, I'm not as sure, versus more of like a scheduling situational play. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably something to that when there's not so much change in between. Like a team might just have another team's number, which I think is fair, but they play like twice a year. Like the Celtics just probably beat the Warriors 4 times in the last 2 years where the Warriors struggled. You know what I mean? Like they play twice a year. It's hard to, I don't know. I'm kind of with you. I don't put too much into that. I just didn't think it was
exactly. I mean, if there's like, you're analyzing the Jordan Bulls, like the 6 out of 8 years they went on the championship run, and you're like, this is their stats against Eastern Conference, top teams. And I'd be like, yeah, that's probably applicable because you have Michael Jordan as the consistent linchpin right throughout.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it's variable. And like you said, and I think if there was more of a constancy on that Celtics squad, then I think I would probably put more weight into it versus where I just probably see it as it's a wash, and who knows?
Yeah, it's just noise. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So what do you think? You think ultimately is this going to be dragged out? Is it going to be knock them down, drag out 6-7 games? Or so let me do it this way. I'll set the over. So if I said over or under 6 games, what would you take?
So I think there's a higher % chance that the series goes 7 than the series goes 5. So if you set the
Sure.
over under at exactly 6, I would probably say a push. I think this series probably goes 6. But if I was forced to take an over under, I would probably take the over. I would probably say 7 is more likely than 5.
Okay. Okay.
What do you
Okay.
think?
Gotcha. Oh man. I think it's going to go long. I mean, I think it's going to be 6-7 games. So I as as much as we know that like the potential for the Warriors offense is like through the roof when they're clicking on all cylinders, it's just, and they struggled against a jawless and semi-baneless
Yeah.
Grizzlies. I mean, literally, right? I mean, you were playing against like a team that
Yeah.
had one and a half of a dynamic duo, basically. So things
Yeah.
like that kind of concern me a bit, So
Yeah, it's almost like I feel like the Warriors have the tendency to play with their food. Like like they almost like they're kind of like they buy into the narrative of like, oh, Jaws out, we're gonna blow them out. They put that to rest in the Maverick series. Like even the game they lost, I wouldn't
yeah,
necessarily say was a game they didn't take seriously.
sure, sure,
So I think I don't put like as much emphasis into that because I think like again, I think it was just them playing with their food. And I don't think that it's going to be as quite of like a game they're somehow down by 55 points like in
yeah,
game 5 against the Grizzlies. I don't foresee that happening at any point in the finals. I think they're going to come up and they're going to show up from game 1
yeah,
knowing that they have a chance to get back on the mountaintop after what 3 years since they won their last one.
yeah. So for me, I think ultimately at the end of the day, I mean, just to be transparent, like I'm rooting for the Warriors. I have a futures bet. I didn't take it early on in the season. I don't like betting futures like that far ahead, honestly. So I had one somewhere in like right after the first round, I think. So I have the Warriors at plus 400. So I'm rooting for the Warriors. So I want financially and then from my bankroll standpoint, I want the Warriors to win.
Yeah.
But I can see this being, dragged out. Like I still give the Warriors the edge, and I'm not just saying that because my money's riding on them. It's just I can see the Celtics defense going toe to toe, with the Golden State Warriors defense. And I think the Celtics have an edge, honestly, when it comes to defense. It's just the offense. It's like we know Tatum, Brown can get hot. Tatum can get hot. So you have them alternating or clicking together on the same night. Yeah, you got the defense and you got a hot, streaky offense. You're going to steal a few games. But can you sustain that offense on the Celtics side for a long drawn out series to get 4 dubs? And that's the part. It's just that offensive consistency. That's the only thing making me say like it's, that I'm totally 50-50. I feel like I am still like 60-40, Warriors at this point. So
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the defense is the Celtics might have a slight edge. I think they mostly cancel each other out, maybe like 52-48 type thing. But I think the biggest difference is offensively. I just don't trust the Celtics offense. I don't like they don't have a true point guard, which concerns me. Like it's like they don't have anybody to just set up offense. They gave that role to Smart, but like as we saw, his decision making can be incredibly erratic, and he's not someone that you want slowing down the offense and like being the quote unquote Chris Paul of like being architecting the offense. And Tatum, as good as he is, he doesn't quite have the passing chops. Like he's mostly just a scorer, and then if he gets triple teamed, he can dump it off. But he's not someone that you're like dissecting a defense or anything like that. So
sure.
that's my biggest concern with the Celtics, and that's been all playoffs. So, I thought the Bucks would win. I guess that was before Middleton got hurt. I thought the Heat would win, and it was all because I didn't quite trust the Celtics offense.
Yeah, and I will say that I think there's plenty of turnovers, and that actually was a pretty good trend if you took Tatum like over on his set lines for turnovers.
Yeah.
For like those initial lines that came out in the previous series, and I think they had a pretty good hit rate overall, if I'm remembering correctly. But to his credit, I feel like he's become a much better, relatively speaking, a better, facilitator and has done decent job of kicking out, finding the open man when needed. But yeah, I think minus him, like Smart, Jaylen Brown, like it gets a little dicey sometimes with their
you don't
decision
want them
making
making
passes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want them making
Jay Wilfer's right. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I think, he if there's any true facilitator, but the problem is he just can't do everything, right?
and it's not his like that's not what he's best at. You want him as a scorer.
Yeah.
Like he has been good. I agree. He has been good.
Yeah, and it's just I wish someone out there did an analysis of Marcus Smart. Like I don't know. When I watch him sometimes, like I don't know if he does more of the turnovers when they're down and he's trying to be the hero versus when they're up and he's just too loose. But it's like, man, like some of his decision making is just cringeworthy when he's,
it's terrible.
you know,
He needs to be.
no, he's a dog on defense. Just on offense, sometimes I'm like, just give it up to Tatum. Let him facilitate at the top. Of the key. I mean, you know, so
he needs to be 80% less of himself on offense, and he would be so much better, so much better.
So, all right. So let's transition. Now let's talk a few minutes here before we dive into our bets. Some keys to victory for game one. So let's dive into some game one, game one analytics here. And so I'll kick it off. So I'm going to say, I'll kick it off with the Golden State Warriors. I think the keys to victory here, we already talked about one, is limiting the turnovers. And I get it. That's just part of who you are, and that's in your DNA. So there's going to be some, but just not just silly ones. Passing it. We've seen it how many times in the Mavs series, in the Grizzlies series, throwing it to someone at half court when you're bringing up the ball and they weren't paying attention. I'm like things like that, like silly turnovers. Just don't do those. The rest you can live with. I think, Wiggins, Clay, Poole, I mean, they have to come in my mind, prepared, knowing one of the three of them is probably going to be, in my opinion, the leading scorer tonight. Okay. Because game one, this is game one. So in my opinion, in a game one scenario, the Celtics will say, we will live with someone else beating us because we're just going to take away your best offensive option. Someone else beat us. So I think tonight's the night where one of those three need to go off if I'm the Warriors. And you just better come in prepared, not being in watch Steph mode, and be prepared that you may be the 1A tonight when it comes to scoring specifically. So I'm interested to see which of those three are going to do that. So I guess I'll just kind of lean into it. So we're on the topic. One of my bets, it's hard. I'm sitting here debating between those three. So I could see anyone making a fair argument that any of those three going over might be doable. And I'm sure you can make an argument or argue against it, but you got to just commit to one. I'm going to commit that I don't think it will be Steph having some like 35-point night. I'm going to roll with Jordan Poole going over 15.5 points. Okay. At the time that I locked it in, I think it was like last night, it was like plus 104, plus 10. Let me see what I got it at. 1 second here. I got it at plus 102 over 15.5 points. So if you actually look at this postseason, games 1 through 3, he scores a lot. He's scoring north of 20 points. Okay. And then after that, his point production just kind of just teeters off and just drops off basically. So again, I have to go back. I'm not going to sit there watching every single game one. I don't get paid to watch film, so I'm not going to do that. But one of my assumptions, and I'm making a broad leap here, is that, look, they're going to take away your best option, your best weapon. And I think that frees him up until the team start adjusting to the fact that, hey, he can shoot. He's driving to the hoop on all these sharp cuts when Steph is getting doubled or whoever's getting doubled, Clay's getting doubled. That tonight might be one of those value spots where, maybe he can cross this line. My only concern is he's such a defensive liability that if he's getting torched, he may not get as many minutes as he typically would. So that is my one concern. So for those of you who are like, I don't like that angle, I don't disagree with you, because my concern with him is he's a defensive liability. So if you think that that's a huge problem, then I would roll with someone else, either Clay or Wiggins. I just think his line was so low that I'd roll with him. I think maybe my go-to backup option would be Wiggins more than Clay, in my opinion. So I would say those would be my two. But I think one of those three have got to do it tonight. So for the Warriors, it's limiting the turnovers. Who's going to step up when you know Steph is going to be hounded by Smart and doubled and tripled up top? Who's going to step up and score? So that's going to be the X factor for tonight for the Warriors.
Yeah. So I actually, before I think about before I comment on the actual outcome of the game, I actually disagree with you. I think Curry's going to go off in game one. I think he wants an NBA Finals MVP so badly that I think he's
bad. Okay. All right.
I think he's going to do. I mean, he to be fair to Curry, he's always been the consummate teammate. Doesn't care if anybody else gets theirs as long as they win. But I think he really, really wants an MVP. And I think he's going to come out in game one just firing. I think he's going to be firing. And I think that
so you're saying I should bet 6 3-pointers from Steph Curry is what you're saying?
I wish you could bet 3-point attempts, because I don't know if they'll go in, but I think he'll attempt them.
So he's going to attempt it. Okay, cool. All right. I like it.
And mostly because the Warriors offense is so good that they're not predicated on Curry. Like, he doesn't need to be the lead ball handle. They can give it to Draymond. Draymond can stand at the key. They can run 9,000 picks. He can run through 1,000 different screens. It doesn't matter how much Smart is hounding him if Curry's just running around screens. You know what I mean? So I think that's the beauty of the Warriors offense. So sneak preview, my biggest player prop was actually taking Curry to go over his point total, 27 and a half.
27 and a half. Yeah, that's what I saw before. So 27 and a half. Okay.
So that was
you like his over, huh?
Yeah, I do. Again, I just part of like I always try to find an edge looking at like the mental part of the game, like what player just wants this. And I feel like Curry really wants to get an MVP. And I think game one is like where you're going to have to, like, I think people remember so much what happens in game one because it's like your first impression of the series,
Sure.
you know? So I think that he's really going to try and get off a good impression. I also think that in terms of how like the Celtics guard the Warriors, and this is, I was listening to the Zach Lowe podcast, and like, I guess and to transition here, like I'm very confident that the Warriors at least win game one. Like I'm very confident in the Warriors money line tonight. And Zach Lowe was saying that like in a bunch of interviews he's done with players that have played the Warriors in the playoffs, they say it takes like almost 2 games to just get used to how the Warriors play offense, because they like it's so motion based. It's so many back picks, and then Curry, like, you know, giving it up, running around out, you know, and like relocating to the corner after running out of bounds. Like so much trickery like that you need to be so mentally focused and disciplined that it's tough when like it's just, I think it's just such a shock to the system. And if you look at the offenses the Celtics have played so far, like the Nets, it's just, they don't run anything. It's just ISO ball. It's just KD and Kyrie ISO friendly. The Bucks is mostly just like set a pick to get Giannis on a mismatch and then let him just like take someone under the basket. The Heat run a little bit of off-ball action with Strus, with Gabe Vincent, and then they tried to dust off Duncan Robinson for a little bit. So they're probably the most equal to the Warriors just in terms of running off-ball action. But again, when it was nut crunching time, it was just Jimmy Butler would just put Derek White under the basket. So they don't have a ton of experience running around off screens and stuff. And I just think it'll take a game or a game and a half to get used to it.
Sure.
So for that reason, I am very, like I said, I'm very confident in the Warriors money line. And then just my last point here, if you just look at like how teams have fared in game one in earlier in this playoffs, like this, the Warriors are 3-0. 2 of them were just blowouts. Like they blew out the Nuggets, they blew out the Mavs. And the one game that was close was against the Grizzlies, in which it was in Memphis. And if you remember, Draymond was ejected for the second half of that game.
Sure.
So he didn't play the second half. Every other game one, they just blew him out. Whereas the Celtics, can't take too much into this, but they're only 1-2 in game ones. The one game they won was almost the inverse of the Warriors, where like they won on the last second. If you remember that Tatum last second layup against the Nets, and then they got blown out in game one against the Bucks and the Heat. Now, of course, in the Heat game, they're missing Horford and Smart, so you can kind of wipe that one. But overall, I think it's says more about the Warriors, that they're just so tough to prepare for that it almost takes a game to get used to it. So that's why I like Curry, and that's why I like the Warriors in game one.
Yeah, and then for those of you who are here in the chat room who maybe aren't like hardcore like NBA enthusiasts, and you're watching now just because it's the finals or the playoffs, that's cool. But just to give you a sense of what Matt is talking about, they even did some metrics, kind of measuring and just tracking kind of the movement of Steph Curry, and there were some stats that were tracking movement, and most games he's averaging, like in games where he's getting close to full minutes, running over 2.5 miles a game. So think about that.
On a basketball court, like that's insane.
On a basketball court, he is running over 2.5 miles. So that's how much motion, like Matt is referring to. How many times do you have to literally go up and down the court, run from sideline to sideline in a half court set to actually get it to add up to over 2.5 miles? That's how much movement Steph Curry has. So that's what kind of Matt's referring to. So all I'm saying, what Matt's saying is, Marcus Smart, I hope his cardio is good for tonight, because
he's got a bum ankle, he's got a hurt foot, and Marcus Smart is more of an on-ball defender than an off-ball one. Like he's not necessarily known through navigating through screens.
That is true. That's true. I would agree with that. Yeah, that is true. So but for those of you out there who are curious, like he's one of the top in terms of like distance covered, literally in the span of an NBA basketball game, where some guys are barely even crossing that mile marker, like the big guys that are plodding up and down. And
or like Harden doesn't move if he doesn't have the ball. Westbrook, like some players like that just don't even move if they don't have the ball. Whereas Curry just could not be more opposite.
Danny Green. I'm just kidding.
Danny Green is physically incapable of moving. That's the problem.
So all right, and so last thing. So let's talk. Okay, so like kind of subtle X factors, keys for the Celtics. So you kick this one off. So what do you see here? Game one, you're coming off a hard fought battle. You got to get ready, geared up for game one. So what are the keys here for the Celtics in your opinion for the first game to kick the series off?
Yeah, I think they probably benefited from like the 3 days off. Like game 7 was on Sunday, so they got a full 3 days
Yep.
off. So normally I like the point you mentioned earlier, fading like a team coming off of game 7 that has to travel for game 1 of the next series. But 3 days off, I don't put much emphasis into
Yeah,
that.
this one's different. This is not like how it was for when they beat the Bucks and had to go play the
Exactly.
Heat. That was a very different scenario.
Exactly. So along with thinking Curry goes off, I also think tonight's going to be a good Tatum game because Tatum's scoring. I mean, he was still incredible in the Heat series, but the Heat, like especially in the fourth quarter, would literally triple team him. They would just throw 3 bodies at him. So his assist numbers were up, and his scoring it wasn't down because he still like his scoring was still in the mid-20s. Sometimes he would get over 30. Scoring was still good, but I don't think the Warriors are necessarily gonna just triple team him like the Heat did. I think they're, especially in game 1, they're not. I don't think they're going to necessarily show their hand at the beginning. I think they're going to try and play him one-on-one as much as they can. So I think tonight I like both Tatum and Curry to go over their point totals. And Tatum's I got at 28.5 at plus 100. But I didn't put as much on the Tatum one as I did on the Curry one. Curry's still my favorite one, but I do think Curry's going to go off. Although Kang has to disagree. Tatum sucks.
All right. So I want you to do this for me. Put up the no sweat symbol here. We're going to do an impromptu degenerate bet based off of Matt Modai's analysis. And I know Matt didn't say this, but my degenerate self for the audience here. We're going to do Steph Curry 30, Jason Tatum 30, so 30-30 plus 390. We're gonna do it, guys. So if you want to be a degenerate, with thinking, I'm gonna just do it. Matt's not saying it, so don't put it on him. This is degenerate me saying I'm just gonna do it right now. Let's lock this in right now, guys. Let's win an even 200. Let's win an even 200. So on FanDuel, $52 to win 203, guys. Here we go. Curry 30, Tatum 30. And if it hits, I'm going to thank Matt. And I'm going to.
I like it. It makes me a little more nervous about it. I'll say that.
But it's me. I'm the degenerate that just combined it rather than taking it. So 30-30, guys. Let's go.
Now we can transition into our best bets. FanDuel has a boost. Will any player score 35 plus? I think it was plus 150. Yep. I ended up putting the full 50 on that one.
Yep, that's fine. That was going to be one of mine as well. So I really like that one just because of the flexibility. So
exactly, you get one player. Just takes one player. Draymond Green has 8 3-pointers in this game. That's all you need.
Okay, so both Matt and I, we are riding the FanDuel boost, and I know people out there always have these conspiracy theories that they're promoting it to whatever, man. It's the NBA Finals. The stars want to shine. They're both hungry for different reasons. Like Matt said, Steph wants to prove he's at the top of his game. He's going to be MVP. Tatum wants to show that he's arrived. So one of the two of you just arrived tonight, guys. Just either one of you. Just please do it for me and Matt. So both of us are going to ride the FanDuel boost, 35 points by any player. Maybe some sneaky player will do it for us, right? So,
hey, I mean, the FanDuel and DraftKings boost hit for game 7 that we talked about. So,
there you go. So 50, but we're both maxing that out. $50 on some player to score 35 points. We don't care who, just do it for us, guys.
Kevon Looney, whatever. do what you got to do. In the other boost, I don't know if you saw this one on DraftKings. They had a boost where if you bet any team's money line and at any point, you saw that one? Yeah. Okay.
That's one of my bets. Yep. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah. So for the listener who might not know, DraftKings has a boost where if you bet the money line of any team and at any point they have a 10-point lead, then even if that team ends up losing, blows a 10-point lead and loses, you still get, you still have that bet win. You still get credit for a win. So for me, I think that's just take the Warriors, take the home team, take the big favorite, hope they get out a 10-point lead, and then you're sitting pretty for the rest of the game.
So exactly what Matt said. So again, very specifically, you have to opt in. Make sure you go to your DraftKings account. There should be a section in the promo section. So make sure you opt in before you bet, guys. Okay. So don't just go do it. So opt in, After you opt in, it's going to be your first wager on the money line, either money line, Celtics, Warriors, and it's your first one after you opt in. I think I've heard from some people different accounts have been variable on the max limit. I think they maxed me out at like 500 for the wager.
That's what mine was too. Yeah.
So maybe it's 500. Some people said to me on DMs that they had 250. I don't know, but
I saw 100. So yeah,
100.
I don't
Okay,
know.
so yeah, so people have variable maxes, but see what the maximum is. To be clear, guys, I'm doing this for a different reason. I have a futures bet where I'm hoping that the Warriors are going to, win this series and net me $2,000 profit. Okay, so I'm rooting. I'm being transparent here, so don't factor that in with what I'm saying right now. So I'm taking the Celtics plus 145 for a couple $100 in my head, hoping for the ideal scenario that somehow they'll get some defensive stops. Warriors do their stupid turnover stretches. They get a 10-point lead. The Warriors surge back and win and help me out with my futures. And I get to win the Celtics at plus 145. So I have a very specific rationale of why I'm doing it. So I want to be clear about that. So I think Warriors are going to win the series, in my opinion, but I'm doing it almost as kind of a defensive maneuver, hoping to almost like a middle. I'm trying to middle this in a game, like a weird microcosm middle, basically.
I like it.
And that's kind of what I'm going for. So,
you could also just bet the now that the Celtics series is plus money, you could just bet like a little bit on the Celtics winning the series just to cover your losses. So you end up, I don't know if you've already hedged that out, but.
Yeah, I was thinking. I'm still sitting here. I'm going to do some calculations after this, just because I want to get at least my outlay back a little bit,
exactly,
and cover myself. So, and I think there's a good opportunity here for that. So, so I probably am going to do a little because I am. Look, and some people are like hedging is for gardeners and blah blah blah. Yeah, okay. But you know what, man? If you're doing this long term, my opinion on that, don't ever listen to people who say that. Okay. It's like, if it's like a tiny, like, hey, I bet like $10 on it and whatever, like, and I bet on a plus, whatever, like, I get it. You just let it ride. It's for fun. But I want some money back. I literally want to win money so I can just keep playing. And that's my goal. It's like, I don't want to have to keep depositing. I just want to win some profit, lock it in. And then at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out and the Warriors don't win, I made a little money still. And it's going to hurt a lot less than the I shoulda, coulda, woulda in retrospect. So everyone has a different style. I'm not knocking the risk taker. Sometimes I let things ride, but when I have a huge outlay, I want to make sure I get it back.
Exactly.
I'm not going to lose it all. So I am probably going to calculate a little bit, figure out what my hedge is going to be just to make sure I win something. So
yeah, no, I think that's smart.
So, okay. So we both of us like the DK boost. We're just going different directions for different various reasons. So, let me see here. What else? Do you got any more specific game one finals bets? Any other props that you got on this?
Yeah. So, I think the total has changed, but I got the total to go over 210.5. I got that on BetMGM at minus 110. So I do think game one goes over. I think now it's at like 212.
Okay.
I saw, I still like it at that number, but I'm just keeping it at the one I got. I already mentioned the Steph and Tatum over points. This one is, I don't know if it's smart to take both, but I also took Tatum to go under 4.5 assists. So the logic of thinking he is going to not get triple teamed and have outlets to pass makes me think his point total is up and his assist number is down. I will say he's been trending above this number, so it is a little bit risky, but I got it at like plus 150 or plus 140. So the odds were pretty juicy. And I figure the logic thinking that the Warriors aren't going to triple team him like the Heat did makes me think he's not going to have as many assists as he did in that Heat game. So I got it at plus 130.
Okay. Yeah, no, I don't. It's so hard. I mean, I don't hate it. I mean, I think it just depends on how they're going to D him up, and is he going to be alpha dog, play to my strengths, just go in score mode, or is he going to kind of be a little bit passive and facilitate? But like you said, I'm hoping he's amped up. I want to see the stars shine. So
exactly, yeah.
Hopefully we get that 30-30 degenerate little two-leg parlay, and we just see both the stars go off. I'd rather see kind of the beautiful motion offense and people scoring back and forth with some key defensive stops. But that's what I'm hoping for. I don't hate it. So, all right, I got let's see, a couple other small ones. I got Tatum and Brown, a tiny little two-legger. There was a tiny little boost. It wasn't like super promoted on their front page, but they have Tatum and Brown to each make 3-3-pointers each. They boosted it from like 120 to like 150. So small bet. I put like $50 on that.
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown, very consistent. If anything, I think maybe I'm wrong, but I think Tatum's been the streakier one. But Jaylen Brown's going to shoot volumes, and he's going to have his chances. If Tatum's attacking, Brown's going to get plenty of the looks in the corners or from kind of that angle three. So I think Brown's going to get his 3, maybe 4, and let's see if Tatum could just drop a couple. So I'm going to take that as a small one. And then my only other one that I have for related to this game or series, I already mentioned it before. Again, I'm being a little bit of a degenerate. I agree with Matt. Tatum, Steph, that's the chalk, and there's nothing wrong with going that if you're looking for just kind of a safe play. But I'm looking just for a degenerate lotto hit, and I know that I'm probably burning this like $10-20, but I am going to sprinkle a little on Al Horford Finals MVP, which again speaks against my theory that the Warriors are going to win, and I want them to win. But again, if they don't, I feel like someone has to step up to help Tatum and to help Jaylen Brown out. There's got to be some X factor out there, and if they somehow lose and the Celtics win, I'm hoping it's going to be like one of those Warriors Iggy years where it's going to be one of these role player guys doing the dirty work. And to me, he's the dirty work guy. Obviously, a lot of people would argue it's smart, but he can do the dirty work on both ends. He can score, he can rebound, he can assist. He's going to play defense. He's going to facilitate.
And he's just smart. He's just a smart player.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, who knows, man? And I know everyone out there sprinkling on different things. He would be my little sprinkle. Would be Al Horford plus 10,000 MVP.
So I have a little sprinkle for you. I just pulled this up on FanDuel. So I'll one up your both Steph and Tatum score 30 score 30 plus. How about both Steph and Tatum score 40 plus for plus 1,300 odds? $10 to win 1,300
for 130, right? For 130, 10 to win 130.
No, sorry, plus 13,000.
Plus 13,000. What?
Yeah, so $10 to win 1.3K. Both score 40 points.
What? No way. There's no way.
I have it up. I have it up right now. Let me see. I could probably even share my screen. I have it up right now. Both Steph and Tatum score 40 plus, $10 to win 1,300.
Wow. I wouldn't, man. Okay. That is higher than I would have thought, honestly. So okay, I'm in. I'm down. So this one,
$10 on
so not the 30-30 one. This one you can blame Matt for roping me into this one. This is plus 13,351.
Yep.
That is.
I see a bunch of these people like these DGen tickets, like BR betting, people parlaying these insane ones. I figured, why not us?
Yeah. Okay. Let's do 40-40. What is this? On 15 points. He's going to score 15. I hope he doesn't score 15 points.
Yeah. And then a much less of a lotto ticket. But if you like Horford to win MVP, I kind of like Horford to score 20 points in game 1 plus 1,100.
Ooh, man, that's juicy.
Yeah. So I personally, I'm not taking that one. But if you do like him to win MVP, I thought that him getting 20 plus points for like that, like he doesn't have to have an insane game to score 20. You know what I mean?
No, it just, for him, the difference between him getting 9, 10 and the nights when he gets more like that 15, 16, 17 range is, can he knock down those threes, right? Sometimes that's it for him. That's the X factor, because he gets a couple mid ranges. He gets a couple free throws from getting fouled on offensive tips and boards. And then it's really just like, he'll take what? Like 3 threes, maybe, somewhere in that range. And can he knock 1 or 2 of those down? And that tends to be the differential between, will it be an under 12.5 point night versus he hits that like 16, 17 margin. So it's kind of like, it's tough with him. So that's what's going to swing it, one way or the other. So
it's risky. Right. It's risky.
It is, but I like it. I like the angle though. I like the plus 11. I'll have to sit there and think about that one. So anything else for this game? You got anything else? Any other?
No.
Drops? Okay. So I got a couple for, let's see, what time is it? Yeah, we got time. It's the NHL game. So Avs Oilers, man. So who here in the chat room? We still got like about, we got a good amount of people here watching. How many of you guys bet on those goal scorers in the game 1 of the Avs and Oilers game, man? basically, if you guys had bet on every single freaking goal scorer, you would have came out making a ton of money. I'm not a huge NHL guy, but I have been watching in the postseason just because, it's kind of slowed down with the NBA and all that stuff. Man, almost everybody freaking scored, man, in that first game, man. It was just it was insanity. I mean, I bet on McKinnon, McDavid, Kadri, Vander Kane. And then I'm looking at my, my app, and it's like score, 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 score. And everything's lighting up green. And I'm just like, this is insanity. This is insanity.
Is something wrong?
I mean, the score was insane, man. And I saw so many tickets out there. I saw somebody who had parlayed 8 different goal scorers and hit that night. And
That's
they literally
madness.
put like 10, I think $5, $10. Like it was just pure insanity. So I don't know how many of you here in the chat room had also bet that night. Here, right here, look, I bet. And I just for fun, I'd bet all these individually up at $35 just for fun, like last minute, right before the game. Connor McDavid, Kadri, Evander Kane, Rantanen, $35 returned 1,050 profit. 1,050 profit
man.
on a $35 last minute. I just clicked on a few guys who I liked. And
that's the dream. That's the dream.
That is the dream. So obviously, who knows? Are both teams going to make some adjustments, and it's not going to be this huge score fest? So I wouldn't bank on that. But look, when I hit one of these random ones, I don't know. Do you guys have that like superstition? Do you run it back? Do you just try it again? Do you run it back? So I'm going to run it back. So I'm just going to try one more time. So I am going to run back McDavid, Kadri, Kane. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing this right because I don't watch hockey that much. So take it with a grain of salt, guys. I can't even pronounce these guys' names. All right, Mikko Rantanen. And so I am going to do a couple individual props, and these I'm taking serious. Okay, so I'm not just degenerately clicking on this. Yeah, Oilers have to win on the road or they're toast. They have to score positive. Yeah, no. I saw that too. I like that, Chris. I like that for real. Even though from a number standpoint, yeah, I'm not a huge NHL guy, but I was looking at that as well. So I like that. I like that for real. So thanks for posting that.
Yeah.
This I have been following. So I'm legit. I even posted this on my social media on Twitter. In the last game, I actually said this I like as a single prop. I liked it even in the previous series. So I do like Kadri to score again. Okay. So Kadri, 1 goal right now on FanDuel plus 186. Okay. So I am going to take that again as a straight bet because he's been doing very well last series, this series. And again, I'm still just kind of getting the ropes, but from what I've been watching and looking at the stats, I like it. And he had tons of shots. He almost got a second one. I'd sprinkled on 2 goals last time, close to plus 1,000. God damn, he was so close, like 5 times after he got the first one. So
that hurts.
But I am going to do another sprinkle, like a quarter unit on 2 goals for Kadri plus 920. Okay, so 1 goal plus 186, 2 goals plus 920. I am also going to do another single prop bet on Evander Kane to score 1 goal plus 168. Tiny little sprinkle again. I would say, another quarter unit, if even 1/10 of a unit. 2 goals for him plus 880. Because again, kind of what Chris is saying. Okay, so those are my 2 for hockey. So again, my actual serious ones are both of them to individually score, and then just running back my degenerate lucky hit from game 1, just to hope that maybe we see another defensive lapse on both sides, and these guys are just going to have another score fest. So that's what I got for hockey. So hopefully I'm going to be watching 2 screens, being entertained for both hockey, for basketball. Let's see how it goes tonight, guys.
Yeah, I took this isn't an official bet, but I did take the Oilers money line at plus 160. I thought that was good value. It was on the Plus EV page as well. Yeah.
I mean, look. I mean, one can argue, they took their gas off the pedal in terms of the Avs towards the latter half of that game. But look, they're capable. They have the firepower, and they've kind of found something towards the end. They really made it a game, towards the end. So I don't hate that one. So, and again, I'm kind of a novice to the hockey stuff, but I like the value there. So,
yeah.
So, all right, man. So, thanks guys for being active participants. Let's see. What is he saying? Bilal saying Kane over. Oh, okay. So I got screwed, even better value. So thanks for pointing that out. So yeah, I was being a little lazy. I got off work late today. So Bilal says, if you're going to do Evander Kane he's getting 2 goals is plus 1,200 on PointsBet. My only problem is I'm limited on PointsBet. I think I could probably bet about $6 on that, which is a problem. So I'm
6 to win. 10 $10.
I can't even use PointsBet even for like straight props. Sometimes I can bet $13 on PointsBet now. I can't believe it. It's just terrible.
I'm not that limited, but I
Yeah.
am limited on PointsBet. It's the only book that I'm seriously limited on.
I'm limited on Bet Rivers. I can literally sometimes bet like $12 a bet. It's sad. And then I'm limited on PointsBet, but luckily FanDuel, DraftKings, they know that I fire off so many degenerate long shots and I add to their coffers with their juice that they're happy to take my other straight bets for the time being. So
Yeah, there you go. They're smart. They're smart.
yeah. So okay, guys. Well, thanks guys for joining in. We love the active participation. We're always happy to post your feedback here. We like being interactive with you guys. So thanks for sticking with us through the entire latter portion of the NBA series, the NBA playoffs. So we're still going to be here talking NBA finals. Even heading into after the NBA finals, we'll be talking NBA offseason, NFL leading up to the start of the season. We're going to be amped up for NFL. So we got plenty to go. The fun's still going to keep going even after the NBA finals, guys. So thanks for tuning in. Let us know if you're going to tail us, fade us, laugh at us, grind with us, sweat it out with us. Let's see how these bets go tonight, guys. So any last words, Matt?
No, I just wanted to piggyback on, for those of you, we appreciate you sticking to the end. If you could also subscribe to our podcast on all the major podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff. Sweat the Bet. We would appreciate that as well. But no, like I said, I'm excited. I'm ready for the NBA finals. I really would not like to see the Celtics win, so I will be rooting hard for the Warriors, but we will see.
So remember, though, 10-point lead from the Celtics to then get a comeback from the Warriors to help.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
All right, guys. Tatum Curry, 40-40. Let's get this, baby.
That'll be amazing. All right, guys. Have a good one.